Hi, this is Tim Yoder with Fit Small Business. Today I'll be evaluating ZipBooks for the Fit Small Business case study. So specifically we'll be looking at the ZipBooks Sophisticated subscription. So to get started, let's look at how we have to enter their basic information. So I believe the basic information is up here under More and under, looks like probably our company information here. Okay, so we can do our company details. Let's change our company name to Fit HVAC and Fit HVAC and Plumbing. Okay, and then clearly we could add an address, phone number, add our website, and we can put a logo here, which I'm assuming we can probably later add to our invoices. Okay, so that's the first part of the setup, and that looks pretty straightforward. Now, can we tell our method of accounting and our entity type? So I think we probably go under preferences here. Okay, so we have some preferences for invoices and preferences for estimates. So those will be helpful when we're trying to customize our estimates and our invoices. General preferences. So we can select a credit card processor, currency, date through which our books are closed or locked. Well, that's nice. That's something we want to be able to do. So let's lock our books. Actually, we're going to wait a little bit. We need to put in the beginning balances first, and then we'll lock our books. Here we go. Report basis is accrual, so that's something we wanted to be able to do. So you can choose from cash or accrual, and we're going to stay with accrual. Okay. Good. So I don't see anywhere we can put our fiscal year end or our entity type, but that's really not that big of a deal. Okay, so that's the basic, how we set up our basic company information. Let's go over here to our scorecard here, and we indicate the types of things you can do here. Okay, so we want to know if we want to, so Fit HVAC wants to be able to report income and expenses in 3 different classes: HVAC, plumbing, and administrative. And so let's see if we can categorize our expenses that way. So I think let's go back to our dashboard by clicking ZipBooks. And I think, is it in this tracking? No, this is for time tracking. Yeah, here we go. It's under tags, which is under transactions. So here we can tag transactions by custom tags, by location, by contact, or by project. Okay, so we can start with we'll use custom tags for our classification. And so we have HVAC. We'll call that a department. Okay, now let's add our second department, which is plumbing. Oops. Okay, and then our third one is administrative. Good. So you can sort by quite a few different items at the same time. So that's pretty good. Oh, we don't want business unit. We want department. Okay. There we go. Now, the other thing we want to sort by is our location. We have 2 locations to track, New York and Delaware. So let's look at locations. I think that should work. So we want New York to be one location. Can I choose location here? Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then it wants me to actually put in all of the information for that location. But it does allow me to save it without that, I believe. Or did it? Yeah, it did. So if I entered the address, it looks like it would actually show that address on a map. Okay, but we don't need that. We just need to be able to track by the name of the address. Um, so let's see if I can modify this. Yeah. I tell you what, let's do this. So it's counting it's counting the Fit HVAC and plumbing, the main company, as a location, and so we'll use that as our New York location. Okay, so this will be our New York location, and then let's make this our Delaware location. Okay, save that. Excellent. Okay, so there's our 2 locations and our 3 classes, which for ZipBooks we'll call them departments. Okay, so now we need to input our beginning trial balance. So first off, let's look at our current trial balance and see if it's going to suffice or if we need to modify it a little bit. So let's see, under transactions, categories is what they call accounts. And so transactions is a bit of a confusing name. What I would call it is more like accounting. So this is where you do all of your basic accounting functions. So that includes modifying your chart of accounts. So it starts with the default chart of accounts. Pretty basic. Looks nice. Okay. Good. That in transit is interesting. That looks like that could be, if you're familiar with QuickBooks, that could be like a funds waiting to be deposited account. So that will be nice. We'll see if that works later on in the case study. Okay, so the accounts I want to make sure we need to have a cash account and we need to have a bank account. So let's try to add the bank account. I'm a little concerned from what I've seen. It looks like the only way you can have a bank account is if you actually import activity from your bank. You can't have a bank account that's manually input, but let's see if that's the case. I'm hoping that's not. So let's call this our checking account. Okay, in the parent category, just current assets. I don't want it under the cash. Okay, and there we go. So save that. It doesn't give it a class. Can we go back? Let's go ahead and put it under cash, I guess. Yeah, see how these other assets have a class? These do not. When we set up an account, it doesn't appear as we can give it a class. So we do want to be able to reconcile our checking account. And we want to reconcile it on the last day of the month. Okay. And so let's hit save. Okay, so now we have a checking account. Okay, and there it assigned the class cash. Okay. I'm thinking perhaps so this is how you're going to do a checking account manually. If you connect a bank account, it'll probably set it up a little bit differently, but I think this should work as our checking account. Okay, so we need a savings account as well. Let's just use what they call the cash account. For our savings, we need an accounts receivable. Good, they have one already set up for us. We need an inventory account. They've got that. We need an equipment account. They have fixed assets. That's fine. We'll just use that account for our equipment. We need an accumulated depreciation account. That's kind of odd that they would have a fixed asset account and no accumulation depreciation account to go with it. That seems very odd, but we'll go ahead and add it. Okay, and that added it underneath the fixed asset. That looks good. So let's just hit save. Okay, there it is. Very good. We need a credit card payable account. And so they have a credit account. We can use that account. But let's make sure it's reconcilable. Reconciliation on. Save. Okay, now we'll be able to reconcile our credit card account. We want a loan payable account. They have a long-term liability. We'll use that account. And then we need a common stock account. So it looks like this is set up for a sole proprietor. We're a corporation, so our equity needs to look a little bit different. So we need a common stock, an additional paid-in capital, and a retained earnings. So retained earnings we don't want to mess with. That's generally a system account that'll close your income statement into your retained earnings, so we generally don't want to mess with that. Our invested capital account, let's change the name of that to common stock. I didn't like that. Okay, so let's get out of there. Okay, well, let's just create it as a new account. Why didn't it show up here? Let's do a refresh. Okay, yeah, here we go. We've got invested capital and common stock. So let's go in here again and try to edit it again. Oh, that's fine. We could rename that additional paid-in capital, invested capital. That's fine. So we'll just use that as our additional paid-in capital account. And then we have a retained earnings. Okay, so now I have a trial balance as of December 31st. It's now 2022, so we'll call this as of 2021. So I need to enter the beginning balance in all of them. So let's see what my options are here. Edit, it's the only thing. So if I click on it, so I have $1,000 of cash on hand. Oh, you know what? We're going to need an additional. So we have a cash on hand account, a checking account, and a savings account. So let me add a savings account. Okay, excellent. So we have $1,000 of cash on hand. So let's see if we can enter that balance. Now when I was creating new accounts, it would have allowed us to enter balance. Maybe we need to edit the account in order to enter the balance. So we'll go back here to our chart of accounts again. So let's go into our cash account and see if we can enter a balance. No, we could do it when we were creating accounts, but but not for the accounts that already existed, so I just wanted to do it all at one time. Okay, I don't see a function here to allow us to enter beginning balances. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do a journal entry to set up all of the beginning balances. So let's see, where do I go to enter journal entries? Yeah, these are just all the same things that was on our side menu. Let's see if I click new here. So let's see, maybe custom is our journal entry. So it's going to give me a date, a name, an amount, and cash, and detail, category, tags. Okay, well this is not here. Let's look at the advanced view. Ah, there we go, advanced view. This is a journal entry. And so I'm going to do a journal entry here to set up the beginning balances in our chart of accounts. Okay, so our cash account was 1,000. Our checking is 10,000. Our savings is 150,000. Our fixed assets are 135,000. Our accumulated depreciation is 115,000. Our credit card payable, which I think we just had labeled credit accounts. They're a credit of $6,000. Our accumulated depreciation also needs to be a credit. Okay, and then we have common stock of 1,000. We have paid in capital, which they've just called invested capital, of 20,000, leaving us a retained earnings of 154,000. And hopefully that should balance. Yes, our debits and credits balance, so this is a good journal entry. And that's how we have to enter our beginning balances. So that's not fantastic, but it's the way it is. Okay, so over to our scoring rubric here. We were able to create 3 classes and 2 locations. We were able to modify the chart of accounts. Excuse me. But in order to enter the beginning balances, we had to do a journal entry rather than being able to enter them directly into the program. So I'm only going to award it half a point for having to do it as a journal entry. Okay, now we want to close the books prior to, in our case, 2022, since the year is now 2022. So we did see a place to close the books, so I'm going to go to More and Preferences, and I think under General Preferences, there is an option, date through which the books are closed is December 31st, 2021. Now that means that nobody will be able to change our accounting entries prior to that date or on that date. It's locked through that date. And so that's very important, because once you get your books in order and you give them to your tax accountant to file your tax return, well, you can't make changes to that past information because it's already reflected on a tax return. If you want to make changes to that prior period, you're going to have to file an amended tax return as well. So sometimes you'll need to do that, but for little adjustments, you want to just make them in the current year. Okay, so we need to add an additional user. So I believe here under our account, let's go to team is probably where we can set up our users. So here I am as our owner of the company. What type do we have? We have active and archived. Let's add another user. And so we'll just call her Jane Doe. So email is jdoe@whatever.com. First name Jane, last name Doe. Okay, and looks like we can give her a billable hourly rate, an hourly cost. Very interesting. So you can track time of your employees in this program. If she were an accountant, we could add her as an accountant. And here it looks like we can give some pretty detailed permissions. That's actually really nice. Now in our case study, we're saying she's essentially an accounts payable bookkeeper. So we want to limit her access to recording and paying bills. So we want to give her. She'll have to deal with contacts, which would include our vendors, and then she'll want to deal with our projects, so she can assign bills to projects, perhaps our time tracking, our reports, and our banks. Well, yeah, so it has accounts receivable here, and that's your invoices and your estimate, but it doesn't really have anything about accounts payable. So the expense part of the accounting. Okay, well, we will invite her with those permissions. So let's go back over here. We were able to close the books. We can easily add a user. We can restrict the rights of users. We could not import a chart of account. Actually, we're going to have to go back and look at that. We might be able to. And we could not import beginning balances. But let's go back and make sure that that was in fact the case. So again, transactions and then categories. Here's our chart of accounts. Yeah, there actually is an import button here. Importing categories, follow these 4 steps. Okay, so we can certainly import our chart of accounts. Let's see if their CSV template actually has a place for beginning balance as well. Okay, so we've got category, parent name, and then an optional code. Okay, so no beginning balance. So all you can import are those 3 items. Okay, so you can account name, parent, and then a code. So you can't import the balance. Okay, so back to our scorecard here. Okay, we can import the chart of accounts, but we cannot import our beginning balances. Okay, so that is it for Chapter 1 of the Fit Small Business case study for ZipBooks Sophisticated.